My name is Maurice Pikelny. I was born August the 2nd, 1936 in Antwerp, Belgium.
Fantastic. Thank you. And so just to start, today is January 10th that we're talking with Maurice. And Maurice, if you want to begin, we'd love to hear a little bit about what your family was like before the 1940s. Tell us about your siblings, your parents, anything you want to add in there about them.
I remember my father in late 1942 and my mother in 42, and she was picked up by the Gestapo. And then my father was arrested a few weeks later in either late 42 or early 43. My mother was in a camp in Belgium. It was part of the Belgian army. And from that camp, my mother was released after 7 months, which is mid-1943. In the meantime, they met each other for 2 or 3 weeks, and my father went to Auschwitz, and he's presumed died sometime in 43. My mother was released because the Queen of Belgium asked the commanding officer in Belgium to release some Jews, and he said, okay. And my mother, they released 200 people, Belgian Jews, and my mother was born in Antwerp in 1908 or 09. And my mother, when she was released, she was number 195. And she went back to her old address, and she was listed as deported.
Okay. And sure. So the Germans occupy Belgium in 1940, and then, like you're saying, in 42, a lot of the anti-Jewish measures start. So what was your life before that, and how old were you when at that time?
Well, the Germans invaded Belgium in May of 1940, and I was 4 years old.
Okay.
Before, do you remember anything?
Before, I have some pictures from the beach with my mother and father. And anyway, so when my mother was picked up, I still remember that day, and I was crying. I remember it was very depressing. I was 6 years old in 1940, late 42. Mm-hmm. And so my father knew somebody, and they sent me to Zottegem. If you translate it from Zottegem, it means crazy town. I was there until 1940. The Allies went into Belgium in June of 44, and I stayed there until late 44, early 45. And my mother picked me up, and we went to Brussels, and we stayed there until 1948. And I came to this country on the SS Ernie Pyle.
Sure. And so in Rotterdam, you were by yourself. You did not have your parents, obviously, because they were.
I never had any brothers or sisters. I was there for almost over 2 years in Rotterdam, and I was living with some people, and it was a house of prostitution.
How did your parents know these people? Did they know them for you?
No. My mother knew from her sister Bella, her husband. He was friendly with the SS, and he saved some people, and he knew somebody in Zottegem, and he said, all right, so they spent over 50,000 francs for 2 years. That was and he sold her engagement ring. And so, like I said, I was living, and I went to school in Belgium, in Zottegem. Mm-hmm. There was either the second or third grade. I never went to the first, second, or third grade. I never went to a pre-K or kindergarten. No, this is getting complicated. I wasn't, I think, either second or third grade in Zottegem, which is part, they speak Flemish or Dutch, because Belgium is a trilingual. Now they speak French, Flemish, Dutch, German, because in some parts of Belgium they speak German, and I'm sure most people speak English now.
And when you were in this prostitution home by yourself during the war, who were you with? Were there any other children?
No, no children. I was living with the people who owned the place. I will still remember the room, and I think I used to pee in the bed at night, I think. It must have been my nervous system or whatever, which I'm still, even today, very nervous. I produce a lot of anti-acid liquids in my stomach. I take a pill every day.
Didn't you say she had children?
No, she had no children.
Oh, okay.
No children involved.
And for you being little, how far was Rotterdam from Antwerp?
Zottegem is maybe 30, 40 miles, about the same amount. Same miles. And
so when you started going to school, did people know that you were Jewish? Did other children know?
No, we told the story was that I came from a big family in Brussels, and I came to live in Zottegem.
Okay. And what was that experience like, finally going to school after you said you hadn't been in other grades?
That's a good question. I suppose I felt strange, and because I was brought up speaking French, although Antwerp, where I was born, it's usually mostly Flemish. Mm-hmm. Some people, I think, I'm not sure, but most people speak French. It's a trilingual, bilingual, like I said, it's a bilingual country.
Okay, and do you remember any of your other students that were with you?
No.
Have any friends?
No, I did not have any friends. I remember for Christmas they bought me. He made a stage with the muppets. What do you call it? With the hand, hand.
Puppets,
and
yeah.
He built a stage. That was and then he bought a carousel, and it was very nice. They were very nice.
And how did you relate to this couple? Did you call them as your parents? Did you call them aunt and uncle? Did you like them a lot? Did you not like them?
No, they were very nice. Can't complain. They never hit me. The food was adequate, I think. And we had 2 Pekingese dogs.
You didn't answer it.
And it was next to across the street was a big Ford garage. Mm-hmm. I remember that.
How did you call her?
I didn't call her. I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
That's all right. No problem. And so you were pretty young at this time, but do you remember any like big world events? Do you remember seeing any news headlines?
I still remember the day when the Germans left, and the next day the British and the Canadians came in. Okay,
so that was later on in the war.
That must have been about like September, October of 44. Mm-hmm. The invasion was in June the 6th, 1944 in Normandy.
Mm-hmm. Can I say something, or just want him?
You can add something, of course.
Well, okay. The reason, the Germans were in Zottegem, and probably in the house of prostitution too. He has been very lucky. He was born with blonde hair and blue eyes, so they didn't even think of him as anything other than a little, whatever they call him, without. So I think that's how he got away with it.
Okay, so you were very Aryan looking,
Oh,
Yeah.
very.
right? And both your parents were Jewish?
Yeah,
Okay,
my father was born in Poland in 1903. He came to Belgium, I think, either in the late 20s or early 30s. He was working for his cousin, I don't know. My father was a diamond cutter,
okay.
and my mother was a housewife.
And did your father have his own business in Belgium?
No, he went to work for his uncle.
Okay. And what do you remember? You said a little bit, you remember when they came to take your mother. Where were you? What did that feel like? You tell us a little of the
I
story.
was traumatically, I remember I cried. I suppose any kid will cry at the age of 5 or 6
Mhm.
that I wouldn't see my mother anymore. And then my father took me to Zottegem and he left. And then he was picked up maybe another week or two later, and they met each other in Malines, which is between Brussels and Antwerp. And my father went to concentration camp in January of 43 and presumed died. I have documentation that he passed away sometime in late 43.
Okay. And so when
What?
he left you in Rotterdam, did he tell you what was happening? Do you remember if he said any words to you?
No, I wasn't told. My mother, when my mother picked me up after the war in late 44 or early 45, we went back to Brussels, found an apartment and lived in Etterbeek, which is like Queens is to Manhattan.
Okay.
And we stayed there for 2.5, 3 years until 1948. And we took the ship in Antwerp. Ernie Pyle, he was a war correspondent. Have you ever heard of him, Ernie Pyle?
No, I haven't.
He died in with the American forces in Okinawa or Iwo Jima. I don't know. And then my mother met her parents, her stepfather. Her father died when she was 3 years old back in 1911.
Mhm.
And her name was Adler. But her mother never, and her second husband wanted to adopt my mother and her sister, Bella. And she said, no, I don't want to adopt them. So she kept her name as Adler, and the new name was Steigrad. So they had 3 other children, which my uncle passed away a few years ago. And he lived in Belgium. He was a diamond dealer.
Okay. And what was your mother's name?
Natalia
Adler. Okay.
Adler, Verve, widow, Pikelny. That's my father's name.
Mm-hmm.
And he came from Novograd, Poland, 1903. And his entire family was killed by the Germans in 1940. And one survived, his brother. He was born in 1917, and he went on the Trans-Siberian Railroad to Shanghai. And he came to, and I met him, he came to the United States in 48 or 49. His name is Leon Pikelny, and he didn't like New York because he felt uncomfortable with the tall buildings. So he went to live in Chicago, and he passed away a few years ago. And he has 2 sons. He has a son and a daughter, which I know them. He goes to Israel every year, and his name is Brian, and her name is, what's her name? Beth.
Okay.
She lives in Chicago, and he lives in Chicago. He's a engineer. He works for the city of Chicago.
Mhm.
He came to New York a couple of times. I met him. Tall guy, over 6 feet. I'm short. I'm only 5'1".
Okay, so these are your father's. This is relatives from your father's side.
He's the only relative that I have on my father's. But he passed away, and he took his father to Poland to see what's left. But now the town is no longer part of Poland. It's part of Belarus.
Right. Okay.
And he passed away a few years ago, and his son Brian took him to Israel. He was buried in Israel. Yeah, he took him to Israel to be buried.
That's where he
in
wanted
Israel.
And when you were little, living in Belgium, did you know of this family in Poland, or you only met them after the war?
And after the war, I met him in '48 when I came to this country.
Okay. And
And
so,
and in the Jewish tradition, you're supposed to marry a brother. Since my father had passed away, it was his brother. But my mother didn't want to marry him.
to.
and to go back to your mom's side a little bit, you remember your grandmother, and you had she and her stepfather and your mother's stepfather. Where did they live before the war?
In Antwerp, Belgium.
Okay, so did they live in the same house with you?
No.
Okay.
I remember this is 1941, 42. We used to live in a apartment building, and some German military people were living on the second floor. And my mother had a miscarriage, and it was secret because did they know that we were Jewish? I don't.
An abortion.
But if they would have found out that my mother had an abortion, he would have been killed too. I don't know if he was Jewish. I don't think so. I still remember for Passover, my mother or father bought a fish, and it was a live fish in the bathtub. Now, don't forget, I was 5 years old, 6 years old.
Mm.
This is all part of 1940, 41. I remember I lost the balloon up in the sky. I guess when you have a balloon and it flies you off, I guess you start to cry. I guess that's a normal reaction. By the way, when my mother was picked up in Brussels, she went to see her sister, I think. They all came to the United States in 42, 43. They went to France, and then I don't know how they came. Then my mother's, her mother, she passed away in New York City in 1952. Her name was Kitty Stigalski. I think it was Polish or Austrian, I don't know. Yeah. She came from Germany, and she came to Belgium in the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And she passed away in 1952 in New York City. She had the cancer, and my mother had cancer, and she passed away in 1973.
Okay. And so do you remember what your parents were like before they sent you in Rotterdam? Do you remember anything specific about maybe how they treated you, how they might have loved you? Any memories that you
I remember they used to fight because it was winter, and my mother had a white rug, and he wore galoshes with snow. And my mother used to cry. I guess. Was she happy with him? I don't think so. She used to say that if he ever comes back from the concentration camp, I would divorce him. I remember that.
Okay.
It's a sad story. What else can I say?
Of course. And so when she went to pick you up,
In Rotterdam in late 44,
What was
But,
that like? What do you remember from that?
well, I was happy. I remember it was at night, and it was a small town and very little light. When there were few street lights on. I was happy to see my mother. She did not. She was never in that town, so she used to call my name, and I heard her, and I was happy to see her.
In the meantime, when you were living in Rotterdam, were you able to talk to her? Did you write letters?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you
I
spent
didn't know.
without
I did
seeing
not that my father had gone to a concentration camp, and I never knew. I knew that my mother was in a. I don't remember if I knew. I'm not sure that if I knew that my mother was in a camp for 7 months, and the Queen of Belgium, like I mentioned to you earlier, as the German general, I guess, I don't know. And I have a paper showing that she was in a camp, and they call it a summer camp,
Okay.
summer line.
Do you remember what camp your mom was in? Did she talk to you about
No,
this?
no, she was from that camp, and there was a monthly convoy to be sent to the concentration camp, either in Poland or in Belarus or whatever.
Okay.
Either Germany, Poland, or Belarus. Belarus didn't start. Belarus didn't come in until after World War II.
Do you know the name of the place that she was in Brussels?
The camp in
Yeah, the camp in Brussels.
it was a Belgian army camp.
Mm-hmm.
They used it for people. And my mother spoke German because she picked it up from her mother, who came from Bremen, I think, Germany. She came to Belgium in either late 1800s or early 1900s. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
And then she went with her husband. They left Belgium in 1941. I think they went to Cuba. I think I'm not sure, because many Jews went to Cuba,
Mhm.
and then they came to New York. And that part I'm not sure, either 41, 42. And they used to live on the west side of Manhattan on 79th Street.
Okay.
And then when we came to New York in 1948 July, we stayed there for a couple of weeks until we found a rooming house, which we had to share the kitchen and the bathroom. And we used to live on 107th Street between Broadway and Amsterdam. And then a few years later, we found a walk-up apartment on 104th Street, which we stayed there until 1963. And then in 1963, we moved to Jackson Heights on 73rd Street. And then I met Sandra in 1966. 1966. We got married in 68. And then we have our first child, David, born in 1970. And our second child, Nicole, 1976. And they got married, and Nicole has 2 children, and David has one daughter. And Nicole's son is in. Can you read this?
I could see your shirt says Cornell, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
He's
I'm not a
coming over.
doctor, but I think he's got photographic memory. I think that's a wonderful gift.
Sounds like you're very proud grandparents then.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing what you went through. I know it must be hard. I kind of wanted to see if we could talk a little bit about why you wanted to talk about this and tell your story now. And if you had ever, who had you ever told this story to in the past? Was it just your friends and family? Did you ever talk about it with your children? Because you never formally gave testimony to like the Shoah Foundation or anything like that, right? What made you want to talk now?
I knew for many years that they exhibit at the college, at the junior college, right, in the Bayside.
Right.
The Bayside.
Right, that's right. But so, did you tell your children your story?
Oh yeah, they know my story. That I lost my father and my mother passed away in Syria. David, our son's name, saw my mother at the hospital. He was 3 years old when my mother died from cancer.
Mhm.
So did her mother back in 1950 from the same type of cancer, which I guess it's hereditary, pancreatic cancer. Very hard to find on too late.
And I guess your grandchildren then are pretty small, right?
When
They're pretty
what
young.
happened, because my son is now 50, it'll be 52 next month.
Okay.
And Nicole is 40, in the mid 40s?
46, I think.
46, I think. Born in 76.
I don't know.
And about how old were they when you told them your story? Were your children?
Well, he made a big mistake by telling his son when he was only 6 or so. He must have told him something because I had a heck of a time getting him to school every day. Because he eventually told me that he was afraid that I wouldn't be there to pick him up. So
You
we
got
kept
scared?
quiet from the other one until they were able to understand that it was war and horrendous things going on.
Mhm.
But so you never formally gave testimony anywhere, though? Is that-
No.
Was there a reason why? Do you identify, have you always identified as being a Holocaust survivor?
Have you?
What's that?
Have you always identified yourself as a Holocaust survivor?
Yeah, I guess that I remember my my childhood, which was not normal, or was a broken childhood. They say that I couldn't love somebody because I was never taught that feeling.
To tell you the truth, when we're doing all this, I mean, we have papers for you because we can't translate. We have a lot of papers from Germany and Belgium and all that in different languages pertaining to that. But since he knows he was doing this, he went back to having his horrible nightmares.
Was that something that you suffered from throughout your adult life?
Well, when we got married, boy, yes, I knew it was that. Yeah.
68.
68. And then they went away for a while, but because we've started talking about it, it started to trickle back in a little.
Yeah, I would think so.
Mm. Well, that has to be really hard and probably a little stressful.
You know, this is such a great opportunity, and it's a legacy, and people should know about this. And if he could be part of that and get across the message.
And the sad
would
thing
be
is that
amazing.
most people say it was a big lie.
And so
Country this year, another big lie.
definitely, there are a lot of people, unfortunately, who are challenging this memory that you so tragically lived through. In that same sense, have you spoken with other survivors, other family members?
I've spoken for people that came from Belgium at the holidays. up in the Forest Hills. Are you familiar with that?
Wait a
Yes.
minute.
The Jewish Center in Forest Hills, right?
Not center, no, that we belong to this, oh, good grief, self-help.
Yeah, self-help, yeah.
Okay, and prior to the pandemic, we used to go there like once every month or so, and everybody would, and they were all survivors of the Holocaust.
And Maurice, how did that make you feel, being with other people who might have had similar experiences?
I feel kind of sad. And and most of them are either in the 90s. I'm 85.
Mhm.
Most of them were born back in the 20s, early 30s. I was born in the middle 30s. And time is running out.
It's true, but it's great that you're here and able to talk about it with us.
It's a very sad situation.
Mhm.
And this thing, I'm sorry, but this is happening again, unfortunately.
There is a lot of increased anti-Semitism, just
Mm.
And
anti.
I'm sure what he did, the president, didn't help.
Right. Well,
It's sad. It's pathetic.
mhm,
And most of them believe of the lie.
mhm.
And I guess the more you talk about the lie, people are stupid. I don't know.
You know, I think people don't believe about the things the Germans did because they can't fathom any human being being so cruel. And so that's the way they put it out of their heads that, oh, that couldn't have happened. That was so full of baloney. It's like reading a horror story.
Yeah, I think
And this way, we can prove that it is true if we have things that we can show them. And they
or
can
even
read,
people. Yeah.
or even people, but people they think are, exaggerating or. 'Cause I grew up with many Holocaust survivors, ones that had their numbers on their arms, the oh gosh, Monticello, up in Sullivan County in the summertime.
Oh, yes.
It's called the Borscht Cell.
Okay.
Borscht Cell. So there were many, many, many of the survivors, but they seem to had a better way of getting rid of well, I guess temporarily were able to enjoy themselves. Whereas my husband relives it constantly and he doesn't let it go. And I know he can't.
That makes so much sense because you were so young. So you weren't fully, you weren't an adult and you couldn't process things the same way as someone that experienced similar things at an older age. So it makes a lot of sense that it would be very hard to process. Can I ask about how religious your family was leading up to the war, and then after the war and liberation? Did your mom still practice in the home? Did you continue it on with your own family?
Tell her about what your mother said about the candles on Friday.
Will you
Do you
repeat that?
remember that?
What?
She decided that if she ever got out and got back to sort of normalcy, she will light the Sabbath candles every Friday. And she did. You don't remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, okay. What?
But
don't
she
wanna
said-
interview
but many
me, they
times she
want
said that
you.
if my father, if he would have come back from the camp, she would have divorced him. I guess they must have had a bad marriage. And then what he did, a couple of things, is he gave them his uncle a mortgage of 22 houses. He gave him money, and she never told him how much it was. And then when we came to this country, his family, Polyacek, he he had passed away, and his wife said, "I'm not interested what my husband and your father did." And so, and they never gave us money back in when we came in 48. It's sad. I've had there was a lot of fighting among my mother's family. Like I mentioned, the only family that I had on my father's side was his brother, who passed away a few years ago. He lived in Chicago, and I'm in contact with his son and daughter. They never got married. He's pushing 60 and she's pushing 50, I think, and they never married. It's a sad story.
You mentioned about when you came to the United States in 1948. You're still a child. But what do you remember about having to move in all these different places? Did you start school? Did you speak English?
Yeah, I spoke a little bit English. I picked up in Belgium. And this is odd. My uncle, who passed away a few years ago, he lived in Belgium. He lived in Antwerp. He went back to the diamond business. He wore the British uniform, but had a patch on his shoulder. Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
Belgium. Where was I? And I've got short-term memory. But my long-term memory is, thank God, it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember so many things. Do I want to remember? Yes and no.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's probably a blessing and a curse that you remember a lot of the detail of the past, right? Thinking about the present and moving forward, do you have anything, like any words of wisdom, maybe? Like, let's just say, years from now, a student watches this and learns your story. What would you want to tell them about their experience? Like advice for them moving forward based on the past?
Remember the past. That's your heritage. And hopefully this will not happen again. But I'm sorry to say, there are elements not coming back. Watching on television yesterday about Hitler coming into power, he came in the normal way, and then his assistant died, and then he became. He was a madman. He must have hated the Jews, because when he was in World War I think he hated the Jews because most of the Jews were fifth, sixth generation in Germany, about 500,000, and they had all the important jobs, and he couldn't find a job. I think that's one of the reasons why he hated the Jews. So as a revenge, he killed 6 million Jews. It's a pathetic situation.
I was gonna ask. You might mention this before, Sandra and Maurice. You have documents or photos. Do you want to show them right now?
Yeah.
Is there something in particular you want to show us?
Okay.
Would you like to see where his, come on, I'll do it. Here's pictures. Here's pictures. Here's pictures. I'll get the,
Okay.
here's a document, but you see, it's in French, I think. We've kept all these documents. Some of them are in pretty bad shape. This is the one that tells him that what I could read says he presumed he died in Auschwitz. And well, it did have a date.
Okay.
And it has his name, Israel Pikelny.
Mm-hmm.
And
For short, easy.
like, And it's in, well, he could read French, but I can't. So we have that, we have documentation. We have his passports. We have a lot of stuff, but we don't know what we have
This
because.
is me. Can you see?
Oh, the camera.
No, no,
moved.
you have to do it there. Yeah. Can you get that one?
And when is that from?
Oh.
I was about maybe 3-4 years old.
Mhm.
I have one where his mother is wearing the Star of David. That's in my computer, so I can send it to you somewhere.
Of course.
Okay, is a
Yeah,
picture in Antwerp,
You have to show it over here.
in Zottegem.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Yes.
See
And-
cafe? There's a painted in the window. Wait,
Yeah, we can see the words cafe. Yeah.
cafe.
And then there's some sort of writing on it. What does it say? It's in French, right?
Zottegem, Maurice, Belgique, 1943, rue the
The address.
the address, rue number 1, rue La Limite.
Oh, and we
Oh,
also,
by the way, the name of the people that stayed there for over 2 years was Henri van den Ville. Van is a very common name.
we also have
Wait.
a letter from the Germans
Well,
for reparations for his mother. She was collecting then, and now he is collecting because they decided that he suffered as well. So, I mean, we have a lot of stuff.
Here's a picture. See the man with the baby on the left. See the one next to the.
Put it to the little square, Maurice. No, the
Oh,
little square.
Can you see?
Pick it up a little.
Yep.
That's it.
So there's
That's-
two people holding babies. Who's that?
My father. That's me and my father on the outside,
Okay.
and then the one next to it is that's Bella's husband, Maurice. It's the same name as I did. These are people I never met from Poland.
The little square, Maurice. The little square.
Can you see?
Now pick it up. That's it. Okay.
Yes. And those are your father's family members from Poland?
I never knew. I never met them.
Okay.
Well,
There
give a
there
good
were
one.
like 65 people.
Give a
here.
good one.
How did you acquire these photos then? Did your mom's? Oh,
That's his father and mother in a wedding picture.
1935.
And
Oh, wait a minute.
I think he had them because his mother had them. Because
That's me.
What a great picture of you. And what are you wearing?
Yeah. And I used to walk down the street with the German, and on top it's Her Majesty's Service,
yeah, oh, it's a
HMS.
British.
British.
Um,
This is à mon cher oncle Leo. Leo, that was my mother's brother who passed away a few years ago in Belgium. From your nephew, Maurice Pikelny, August of 41.
yeah, the
August
country.
41. I was what, 5 years old, 6 years old.
This is his father. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know your father.
Here's a picture. I was in a play in 46, 47 at school. I guess that her mother was the school teacher.
That girl's mother?
Yeah, we were, do you know the song? Sur le pont d'Avignon?
I
Sur
do
le
not.
pont d'Avignon, on y danse, on y danse.
Here's
Okay,
him
anyway,
in
yeah.
the dressed like a little girl in a carriage.
This is the release form from my mother. Wait,
Who's this? I can't read.
This picture, the second woman, when my mother was, this picture is 1920. She was born in 08, so she must have been 12 years old. Can you see? On the beach in Holland. Skating.
Mhm.
This your dad's passport?
Did you
No.
see this picture of me as a baby?
Yes, we did.
Get the other baby picture. I like it better. This is when they came to the States.
Yeah. Because I was
It's
a
their
minor, so
passport.
I was
So
on the same
He's
passport.
on his mother's passport, so it's a passport. And what are these things? Those are the
Those are ID cards.
ID cards that his mother had to carry with her at all times, I guess, to prove who she was.
This is after the war, between 1945 and 48.
I know that's hard. So anyway, okay.
And this is, did you see this? What,
Well, that's gonna be hard in a little square.
can you see? This is a German release paper that she was in a camp for 7 months in 42, 43.
Okay.
And on the other side, it says, I can't read it, it's German. I mean, we really have a lot of things that might be really interesting. And some have the seal. Oh, where is it? Well, sorry, I'm not doing that either.
How would you
Okay, we
begin
can see.
how would you begin my story? Like 1935 when my parents got married?
I would say so, right? The story begins with your family
In
Um,
35?
and who they
Oh.
were before.
Yeah.
And-
Before, during, and after, right?
Mhm.
These are all we have. Look at how many we have. And then we have on the other side, this has to do with his father. That has to do with his mother. Then we also have the little gadget that they used to, do the diamonds and the scale. It's a very old fashioned. Well, it's all tied up.
And Maurice, your mother kept all these things. Did she?
Yeah, she
Mhm.
kept all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the furniture, and she had to schlep, she had to schlep all the furniture from her parents. They were bought from the World Exposition of, I don't know what they were, beautiful furniture, mahogany with marble and gorgeous furniture,
Mhm.
which you find on Park Avenue. And we sold everything. And my mother got stuck with all the furniture, and we got a couple of dollars when we sold everything before coming to this country in 48.
Okay.
I don't know what is in here.
But she kept the most important things to her, the family photos and
Photos and documents,
documents.
Who did this
and
belong to?
then documents were,
Who did this belong to?
those are when I was in the Air
Oh,
Force.
well, you were in the Air Force.
For
Okay.
good conduct and
You
Oh,
served
was
in the
in the-
Air Force here?
yeah.
I was in the Air
Mhm.
Force, 58, 62. I was stationed at Andrews Air Force Base. That's outside Washington, DC, in Maryland.
And then when you,
And I was a dental technician. I worked in the dental lab.
See, there he is. He got out of the Air Force.
and then did you say you became a dental technician? Is that what you did with
Yeah.
your career after?
To school before that, in 56, 57. Yeah. I went 1 year when I graduated high school of commerce. The building was torn down when they built Lincoln Center. Are you familiar with Lincoln Center?
Of course, yeah.
The music school, college, what's the name of the college?
Where? I'm sorry, I wasn't.
In Lincoln Center.
The college?
The
What's
music,
the name of the music school?
is that Juilliard?
Yeah,
Juilliard.
Juilliard.
Yeah.
Juilliard, on that side used to be High School of Commerce. It was torn down in 50 when they built Lincoln Center. in the late 50s. And,
That's where you studied.
and then our son and our daughter down the block went to music and art high school.
Okay.
Well, David went to the old music and art.
He went to City College for 1 year. I went to City College for 1 year and it didn't work out. I didn't do well. I wasn't prepared.
Served in the Air Force? You went to City College or before?
No, after.
Okay.
I was in the Air Force from 58 to 62. And then I came back living with my mother until, and then, like I said, came in 52, in 62, 58 to 62 in the Air Force. Then we spent 1 year living in Manhattan, and then we went to
Jackson Heights.
Jackson Heights in 63. And I met Sandra in 66. I got married in 68. And David was born in 1970, and Nicole was born in 76.
Great. And what did you do in the Air Force? What was your role?
I was a dental technician.
Oh, okay.
I went to school for 2 years. And when I came out, I tried a job and it didn't work out. So then I took a test and I worked for Social Security in Left City. Are you familiar with Left City in Corona, in front of the LIE?
Definitely.
Yeah, and then I retired in 4/95. And I had a small pension from the VA because going back to Belgium, I hit myself against the pole and I had a light concussion. And then while I was in the Air Force, when they say that anytime you have a head injury, you should always wear a scarf, a hat, because you might have a short circuit in your brain. So I was at Walter Reed Hospital for 30 days for observation, and thank God I never had any side effects. But they gave me a pension of $15 a month. That was back in 1960. No, 1960.
When Kennedy was a.
When Kennedy, and I remember I used to work at Lawton Taylor, which is no longer there. They went out of business this year or last year, wasn't it? Lawton Taylor? They went bankrupt, I guess. And I found out that he got killed. Another sad story. If you notice, I didn't have a dull life.
Certainly.
And I got married. I said, I got to get married because I love her and I don't want to stay single. And I was already in my early 30s.
And how did you meet?
Through a friend.
Well, the very first computer dating in 1967, I believe. My friends and I from college, we said, let's go and do it, but let's not give real answers. Do the opposite of what we would have said. So we did. And I got a call from this guy called Charles. And oh, wow. Well, I mean, at least he took me to a concert. That was nice because I put down music. We were music. And, but it was not a very pleasant. And he kept on saying, but I have a friend, he wants to call you. Sure. You know, and then when he tried, you know, again and again, and Maurice was very persistent. So I said, oh, I'll give him a try. And that was it. He was much than guy that he knew. So that's how we met, through the sort of a computer.
Oh, okay. Maurice, is there anything else you wanted to add? Anything you wanted to talk? I know we did a lot in the past hour.
I still can't believe that I'm 85 years old.
Don't look 85, that's for sure.
Thank God I'm pretty healthy.